Let's get started. Hello Ayush. How is it going?
Hello, I'm doing well. The earlier modules helped me understand commodities and commodities futures quite well. Recently, I have been reading about options and they seem interesting, but a bit complex. Could you explain them to me in detail?
Of course Ayush. I'm glad you are getting curious about options. They may seem complicated at first, but once you understand the basics, they become much easier to grasp. Let me help you understand them step by step. In this lesson, we will understand the basic concept of an option. This is the foundation of the entire topic. If you understand this lesson clearly, the rest of options will become much easier. Basic concept of an option.
What is an option?
Let us begin with a very simple definition. An option contract is a contract that gives the buyer the right but not the obligation to buy or sell something at a fixed price within a certain period of time. This is the most important idea in the whole chapter.
Yes, I had read this definition, but it's not completely clear to me.
Let us break it down. An option gives a right. That means the buyer has a choice. But it does not create an obligation for the buyer. So the buyer can decide later whether to use the option or not. This is what makes an option different from a futures contract.
So, traders have a choice, right?
Correct. In a futures contract, both sides are obligated. In an option contract, the buyer gets flexibility. The simplest way to understand an option. Think of an option as paying for a choice. You are not paying to buy the commodity immediately. You are paying to reserve a right for the future. So an option is like saying, I want the opportunity to buy or sell later at a fixed price, but I want the freedom to decide later whether I actually use that opportunity.
Now I understand. Options are all about choice and flexibility.
Yes, Ayush, that is the basic idea. Why is it called an option? Have you ever wondered why this is named as an option?
It is called an option because the buyer has the option to act.
That's right. The buyer may exercise the contract or the buyer may simply let it go. So, the contract gives a possibility, not a compulsion. Very simple everyday example.
Can we discuss this with some examples? That will make it easy for me to understand.
Sure. Suppose you go to a shop and want to reserve a bicycle that costs rupees 10,000 today. You think the price may rise next week. So you tell the shopkeeper, I will pay you rupees 500 today if you promise that next week I can still buy this bicycle for rupees 10,000. Now, two things can happen. Case 1, price rises. Next week, the bicycle price becomes rupees 11,500. But because of your agreement, you still have the right to buy it at rupees 10,000. So, your agreement becomes valuable. Case 2, price falls. Next week, the bicycle price becomes rupees 9,000. Now it makes no sense for you to buy it for rupees 10,000 through the agreement. So you simply do not use your right. You only lose the rupees 500 you paid earlier. This is very similar to the concept of an option.
So I didn't buy the bicycle but paid a small amount to have the option to buy it at the set price, correct?
Absolutely right. You paid money for a right, not an obligation. That money you paid is like the premium in options. Bringing this to commodity markets.
How does this work in the commodity markets?
Let me explain about commodities and commodity options. Suppose gold is currently trading at rupees 1,60,000 per 10 grams. You believe gold prices may rise. Instead of directly buying gold futures, you buy an option that gives you the right to buy gold later at rupees 1,60,000. Now, if gold rises to rupees 1,80,000, that right becomes valuable. If gold falls to rupees 1,40,000, you are not forced to use the contract. You can walk away. So again, the buyer has flexibility. This is the beauty of an option.
So, if participants use options and the price of commodity rises at a future date, then they can buy it at a lower price. And if the prices fall, then they are safe from a loss.
Yes, Ayush, I think you are understanding options now. Two main parts of an option.
In an option contract, who gets the right?
Every option has two sides. Option buyer, the buyer gets the right. Option seller, the seller takes on the obligation. This is very important. The buyer has a choice. But if the buyer decides to use the option, the seller must fulfill the contract according to the terms. So, buyer equal to right, seller equal to obligation.
Okay, that'll be easy to remember.
When does the buyer pay money?
Now, I'm curious to know, if the buyer has this flexibility, why would the seller agree?
That's a great question. The buyer gets flexibility and protection. That is valuable. So, the buyer has to pay a price for that right. This payment is called the premium.
The premium is the amount paid by the buyer to the seller for the option contract.
Yes, so in simple language, the buyer pays for the freedom to decide later. Core difference from futures.
How are options different from futures?
In futures, both buyer and seller must perform. Profit and loss move directly with price. In options, buyer gets a right. Seller takes the obligation. Buyer can choose whether to act. So the simplest distinction is futures create obligation. Options create choice for the buyer.
Okay, I'm getting more clarity now.
Why people use options?
Why do participants use options?
People use options because they want one or more of the following. Protection against unfavorable price movement. A chance to benefit from favorable price movement. Limited downside. Flexibility.
So options can be used both for protection and for earning profits.
Correct, Ayush. Options are useful for both hedging and speculation. Recap. Let us recap. An option is a contract that gives the buyer a right, but not an obligation, to buy or sell at a fixed price within a certain period. The buyer pays a premium for this right. If the market moves in favor, the buyer may use the option. If the market moves unfavorably, the buyer may simply let it expire.
Yes, I understand now. That is why options are considered flexible instruments.
An option is not a commitment to trade, it is the purchase of a choice. That is the central idea. In the next lesson, we can build on this and understand the two main types of options, call options and put options.